Let's say we work at some video game company and we want to know how our recent competitors are doing. So I've got a data set on video game sales for different regions, and in this video I'll show you how to add an interactive box that's going to ask you to sort by the year or the sales. If you have previous programming knowledge, it's probably going to be easier for you, but if you never coded before, that's completely okay because this video is meant for beginners and you're going to learn things like creating VBA procedures, using logical statements, and getting user input. So if you follow along the whole video, I guarantee you're gonna learn something new. And in the end, I'm gonna give you a challenge to do. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So first I'm gonna do Alt F11, and this is gonna open up a new window. And now I'm gonna do Insert, and then Module. And this is gonna show me some white space. And in here, we're gonna put in all of our code throughout the whole video. Okay, before we actually type out the code, I need to show you the syntax for the sort method because we're gonna use this a lot later. And there's a ton of optional arguments in this method, but I'm just gonna be showing you the ones that I'll use for this video. So first you have to specify the range of values, and then after that you have to say .sort, and then you say key1 with the colon and the equal sign to let Excel know that you're assigning a value to that argument. And you have to put in the column that you want to be sorted. Then you put the comma, and now it's time for the second argument. So you say order1 with the colon and the equal sign, and you want to tell Excel if you're gonna sort it by ascending order or descending order. And finally, the third argument is the header, and you want to tell Excel if there's any headers or not in the data set. If you want a more detailed overview of this method, then you could check out the link in the description below. I provide the whole documentation. Now that I got the syntax out of the way, I'm going to create the first VBA procedure, which is going to sort all the years. So first I'm going to say public sub, and I'm going to call the procedure year sort. And then when I do enter, it's going to automatically add a new line called end sub, which is what we want. And this procedure is going to contain some code that you can run every time you call it. So the code inside this procedure is going to be columns A to J. And I'm doing A to J because those are the columns in our data set. And now I'll say .sort. And our first argument is going to be the range of values that have the year in it, which is column D. So I'll say range and then D2. And I'm not doing D1 because D1 contains the column header, which isn't the actual year. So I'm starting at D2, and now the second argument is going to be order1, and I want to get the most recent competitors, so I'm going to say it's in descending order. And notice that I put in XL first because you have to specify those two letters first for this argument. And finally, for our last argument, we want to tell Excel if we have any headers in our data set, which we do. So I'm going to say XL yes. So I'm going to run this procedure by clicking on this green button, and now I'm going to go back to the Excel interface, and it looks like there's a problem. I don't want there to be any NA values. I just want it to show the actual number, the year value. So it's a pretty easy fix. I'm just going to click on this drop down arrow and then scroll down to where it says NA and deselect that. And now we're good to go. Now it's time to create our next procedure, which is going to sort the global sales column. So I'm going to give myself a bit of room here, and then I'm going to say public sub global sales sort. Click enter, and then I'm going to copy and paste what we put in before just to save some time. And then the only thing we need to change is this range for our key. We just need to say J2 because we want to sort the values in the J column. And everything else remains the same. The order is still descending because I want to see the top sales first. And then the header is still yes because we still have headers in our data set. Nothing's changed. And if I run that by clicking on the green arrow and check out the Excel interface, it looks like the procedure worked properly because I see the highest one at the top. But as I gradually scroll down, the global sales gets lower. So the sorting worked, but there's still more coding to do. I'm going to create our third and final procedure now, and this one has a lot of code, so be ready. So I'm going to call this the sort or the user input procedure, and then for the code, I'm going to initialize a variable called sort input as a string. And after that, I'm gonna declare this variable as a message box or an input box. And I'm gonna say, do you want to sort the year column or the global sales column? And then end it with another double quotes. And if you used Python before, this probably looks familiar because the input box is pretty similar to the input function. Anyways, if I run this right now, it's gonna give me an input box where I could type anything in. But right now, if I click OK, nothing happens because we didn't code anything for that. So that's what we're gonna work on right now. So I'm gonna use this sort input variable to create some if statements. So the first condition is gonna be if this sort input is equal to year, meaning that if the user types in year, then we have to run the year sort procedure. And so to call another procedure, we have to just put in the procedure name, and that's it. But we have another condition we have to deal with. What if the user puts in global sales? Well, then we say else if sort input is equal to global sales, then we just run the global sales procedure. So we just type in the name of that one. But there's a condition that we still need to consider. Think about it. What if the user puts in a value that isn't year or global sales? What do we do then? We have to put in an else statement to deal with that condition. So I'm gonna say else, and then I'm actually gonna create a new variable up here. You'll see why just in a second. I'm gonna say dim, and I'm gonna call this try again as an integer. Then go back to the else statement, and I'm gonna declare the variable try again is equal to a message box. And I'm gonna say you entered an invalid value. Do you want to try again? And the type of message box is gonna be VB yes no, meaning that it's going to be a box that shows the yes button and a no button that the user can click. You'll see in a moment when we run this code. And this whole message box is going to return a certain value. And if you look in the official documentation that I provided in the description below, you'll see that if the user clicks on the yes button, then it's going to return a value of 6 for whatever reason. So that's why when I declared the variable, I made it an integer, not a string. So now I'm going to say if try again is equal to 6, meaning that if the user types in a value other than year or global sales, then we're going to call the user input procedure all over again so that it runs all the way from the beginning. And that's it. I know that was a lot of code, so I want you to pause the video and think about what I just did here. But now I'm just going to run the code, and we'll see what happens. So I'll say, it's gonna give me an input box. Do you want to sort the year or the global sales column? I'll just put in something else. I'll say okay. And it says that I entered an invalid value. Do you want to try again? And let's say that I do want to try again. I'll click yes. And then let's say I want to sort the year column and say okay. And then I go back to the Excel interface, and it looks like all of the years were sorted by descendant order because the latest, most recent years at the top, and if you go down, it gets lower and lower. So that's good. But I wanna run it again. So I wanna click on the green arrow, and then I wanna say global sales this time. And I'll go back to the Excel interface, and then now it's showing me the highest amount of sales, the most popular video game, which turns out to be Wii Sports in this example. If you made it this far in the video, then I know you're passionate about learning Excel, so I'll give you a challenge. I want you to add a new procedure that automatically sorts the genre column in ascending or descending order. It's your choice. And then if you go back to the code, I want you to edit the input box so that it asks for if you want to sort the year, global sales, or the genre column. And if you complete the challenge successfully and you run it, then if you typed in genre and say okay, then it should sort the genre column in the order that you specified. And I read and reply to every single comment, so let me know in the comments down below if you solve the challenge or not. And if you like seeing me do these types of tutorials, then I hope you like and subscribe because it really helps out me and the channel. So click on this video if you want to see me do another project like this one.